Coming up on this episode of Common Denominator.
A great brand creates polarity. You either love it or you hate it. And when people talk about it, whether it's good or bad, that's good.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, where we shine a light on people striving to make the world a better place. Today, the creator of hostage tape, which sounds scary but actually helps you stop snoring. Alex Neist is a former pro football player, a former lifetime snorer, and the brilliant mind behind hostage tape, a product that stops people from snoring. It did for Alex, and it saved his marriage in the process. Learn how the tape, which covers your mouth but still lets you breathe, can help you finally get a good night's sleep. Hi, Alex, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
So I'm looking at you now. I see you got the tape on your nose. I just have to ask you, after all this journey that you've done, how did you sleep last night?
I slept amazing. I do. I sleep amazing every night, though. Like when you're the founder of a sleep company, I think we should sleep amazing. So absolutely. Yeah.
How important would you say sleep is for humans?
It's everything. I think it's something that, especially as men, as we get older, I don't think we put enough conscious effort in to getting better sleep.
I just think about it from a general perspective. It's like 1/3, right? Should be theoretically 8 hours, 24 hours in a day. 1/3 of your life, your entire life, is sleeping. So exactly to your point, why don't we spend enough conscious planning around sleep and what that looks like as far as it relates to the rest of our day?
I mean, I can only talk about us in Western civilization here, right? Like in North America, because I don't know what they're teaching in other countries. But I know here in the US, I just don't think that we're taught and we're being taught enough how important it is to get great sleep and the things that we can do to get great sleep. And I think the most important one being, which we're solving, is mouth breathing, right? I think that, like, my journey as a high level athlete, my whole life, going 40 years and never learning that mouth breathing was so important to this whole journey that we're having on this earth is just, it's crazy. So
I know, right? So you were married and you actually got divorced, right? Because
I did.
So tell me that story. Tell me what's going on, the conversation between you and your wife.
So snoring ripped my family apart and it led to divorce. But spoiler alert, we're actually back together. Now, so really when people hear that, they hear, wait, snoring tore your family apart? BS. Like, they don't believe it. But really it comes down to this fundamental idea of snoring is a catalyst for all these other things, right? And the John Gottman Institute actually did this great study over years and years and years of them being around, and they study couples and what makes couples work and what doesn't work. And they came up with this concept of the magic ratio. And I think this really encapsulates why snoring led to this issue and why it does for many men. So the magic ratio, it says that for every negative interaction that you have, you need 5 positive interactions to counteract that one negative thing. So imagine this, right? I'm snoring awfully like a chainsaw, and my wife can't get any sleep, so pushes into the other bedroom, and she's upset, she's resentful. That's one pretty huge negative interaction. Then we get up, and then maybe it leads to a fight. That's 2. And then by the time I get out the door to go to work, we've had maybe 5 negative interactions. I need 25 positive interactions to counteract that. And that feels like a boulder coming down, chasing after me like a Indiana Jones running out of the Temple of Doom, right? And then I just can't escape it. So then it just snowballs into this bigger issue that all these other things just exaggerate. And then it led to our divorce. And so then for me, when we were separated, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I started a previous company and I had just sold that company. So I was in the middle of, I'd sold it. I was vesting out the equity that we'd gotten for the first company, going through this divorce. And I'm partly thinking to myself, like, okay, what do I want to do? Where do I want to go on my next journey? Because, you're an entrepreneur, you want to go do your own thing. But I'm like thinking, what do I want to do? But also, I knew I got to work on myself as a man, as a father, and as a partner, as a husband, all those things. And the sleep part was what made me think, all right, this is the first thing I need to look into. Because I think as we get older, I just turned 44 this last month. And as we get older, us men, I just don't think that we take sleep issues serious enough. And we definitely don't like going to doctors. I think I come from a doctor's family. And so I think we've kind of lost trust in our medical kind of community here, and we just don't want to go to doctors and listen to what they have to say anymore. So I think most of us just don't trust going to a doctor, and we're just like, we'll figure it out. So I just kind of had that, I'll figure it out. It is what it is. I'll deal with it. And you go on Amazon and you search for the mouth guards and all those different like things and tricks. Nothing worked. But then I stumbled across this article that was written by James Nestor. And James Nestor wrote this best-selling book called Breathe. And in this article excerpt from the book, he talks about this experiment that he did at Stanford Medical Center. So they went to Stanford Medical Center for 10 days, and they plugged their nose to see both anecdotally what happened and also to have these doctors, right, measure what happened. And so throughout those 10 days, they developed sleep apnea, snoring, dangerously low levels of blood oxygen. And then when they pulled the plugs out, and then they would mouth tape at night to force nasal breathing, everything went away in a few days. And that's, for me, when the light bulb went off. And I went, how have I been an athlete, a high-level athlete, my whole life, and I never knew that mouth breathing was this problem, this issue, this cause? And so then I went on Amazon, and you kind of don't know what to get if you're going to try mouth taping. You don't know what to buy. You don't know how much to get, how to put it on. So you buy something cheap, right? And then I get it. And I'm anxious. Everybody's anxious. Like, it's natural to feel like, wait, am I going to die if I put this on? Like, am I just going to like drift away and not wake up? And
because that was just exactly that point for the first few weeks, because I am a user of hostage tape. And first few weeks, it was awkward and strange.
Yeah.
Right. And you're sleeping, so you're not conscious. So definitely relate to that.
Totally. It's normal. Because even me, the founder of the company, even I felt that way the very first time I did it. But my cooler head prevailed. And it's like, look, my nose, this is what our nose was made for. Our nose was made to breathe. Our mouth was not, a great saying, Andrew Huberman always talks about how your mouth was made for, you should only be mouth breathing when you're talking or eating. Like, that's it. Otherwise, you should always be using this guy. So I put this tape on and I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I went to bed and I woke up the next day and I couldn't believe how I felt. I felt like I was a teenager again, because when you get really poor sleep and the older you get, it like exponentially starts to stack and then just feel awful. So when you finally get really good sleep, it's jolting, because you realize how poor you've been sleeping for so long. And so for me, like many of our users who use it for the first time, it was jolting. And I couldn't believe just how amazing I felt. So, and it was at that moment as an entrepreneur, I went, okay, there's a business opportunity here.
By the way, I was just curious, were there other type of tapes that existed in the market?
I mean, there were sort of, there's certainly 3M makes plenty of tape, right? There's medical tapes, all sorts of things that have been used for forever, for the longest time. There were a few, but when we researched it and we kind of looked like what's in the market right now, nobody really went after it and said, we're going to create a really great, cool brand. Nobody was doing a great job of branding something, right? And so I knew that if I'm going to take this idea and it's going to be big, it's got to be around this great brand that we create, because otherwise, well, why wouldn't you just go buy 3M tape? right? That's certainly one of the biggest objections that people have is well, why wouldn't I just buy 3M tape?
But I wanna harness on that. I think that's brilliant because every successful, right? Because it's literally that extra 5% of what makes something successful. Plus, I always say, kind of like grit and fortitude. Because here it is, it's a piece of tape, but what you did is, and obviously you'll talk about that, the understanding about branding, how important that is.
Yep.
And I'm curious to know what steps you took on the branding side to
well, because
that.
For anybody that's if you're seeing the name of the brand called hostage tape, the first thing in your mind you're thinking, why the hell would you call it that? Right?
Yeah,
that's what everybody's thinking. And so I'll get to that in a moment why we called it that. So, but we knew that we had to create this amazing brand because I knew that if you look at like Liquid Death, right? I've got a Liquid Death right here.
Yeah.
I love Liquid Death, and they've done an amazing job of how they branded water. Who would have thunk it, right? So I knew that we needed to take a similar angle of how Liquid Death did it. And so I wanted to flip the marketing on its head because I didn't want to be medically. I didn't want to be professional. I didn't want to be all these things that just are boring, right? A great brand creates polarity. You either love it or you hate it. And when people talk about it, whether it's good or bad, that's good. That's always a good thing.
That's a very important point to news as well. Good news, bad news. It always that's exactly what it is. And that Liquid Death only actually ended up on my table, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, wow. I'm like that because that stays in an emotion. That stays somewhere. And at the same time, when my wife ordered the first batch of the hostage tape, I'm like, hostage tape? I'm like, it sticks in your mind. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love
exactly.
that.
When you see it come across your feed, you go, what? People do one of two things. They're either like offended, wildly offended, because they're like, ugh, who would name it that? But then you have this other sector of people who's our target. They go, oh, that's clever. I love it. Because people are thinking they had the balls to actually go out and create this really cool, edgy thing. And I get it. So why did we call it hostage tape? It comes down to this. It really comes down to two things. So the funny backstory to it was when I first started mouth taping, when my kids were at my house, I used to warn them and I would say, all right, hey, I'm going to put some tape on my mouth. It's going to look like I'm being held hostage. So don't freak out if you see me with it on, because it's very jolting, right? When you see somebody with tape on their mouth, at night,
it looks very odd. And the first couple of times I had to tell my wife, no, don't worry, it'll help me stop snoring. It's okay.
Yeah, totally. So you ironically look kind of like you're being held hostage. That's the obvious. But the flip side of the coin, the more important part is we're tapping into this core emotion that people feel. People feel held hostage by either poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do.
Love that.
So it's this emotional response that when you see and you go, oh, I get it. Okay, I'm feeling held hostage by my partner and I can't sleep. Oh my God. Right. So that's what it is. And obviously we knew that hostage tape, it's going to make you stop and look at it. And it's going to inspire a conversation with people. And it's going to inspire. And we purposely went more masculine in the branding because I wanted to target men like myself who we made this great product that works well with facial hair. It works well with men who've got strong jaws because, for some people, maybe a little piece of tape works for you. But for me and most guys like me, that doesn't work. I'm going to pop that sucker right off. So I wanted something that covered my whole mouth that felt really comfortable and it worked with facial hair. And so that's how we kind of branded it and went after. That's the target we went after, that guy, right?
What was the process, I guess, designing and building? Did you have to put together a team? Like practically, what goes in? Okay, we're going to color it this. It's going to be this way. Because do you have a science background? Is that I know you have an entrepreneurial, so I guess you have to bring together some people to make it actually happen.
So when I started this brand, I knew that I wanted to get into e-commerce, number one. right? Because I'm like, I keep seeing all this stuff about e-commerce, and I was in SaaS, I was in software. And if you know anything about SaaS and software, it's really hard. It is really hard to sell it and just to get, it's just, so I did that and I wanted to get into e-commerce. And I knew that if I was going to do that and make it work, I had to have a partner that was strategically aligned with me. And so I purposely partnered with a guy that I'd worked with for years on my previous business, and he was a creative. I knew that we had to own our creative, that I wasn't going to hire out an agency to do all of our creative and not own that, right?
Yeah.
Because that was going to be one of our biggest levers. So it had to be ours. It had to be.
I'll tell you something, and that's super important. What I think the listeners should know, a lot of times we partner with like people, meaning they're our friend and they're exactly like us. What I've seen the success is figuring out you're completely different or different sides of the brain, and then figuring out how to work together. Figure out how to work together, and the fact that you notice that is brilliant. Like, let me get the creative because that's what I need. And then also remember, a third party. I know I'm in the real estate business. That's my main thing. But the difference between managing in-house and then hiring an outside manager, it's completely night and day, all the way down to the net income, to the profit.
Right.
So
especially too, like,
yeah.
From my point of view, I'm looking at this going, okay, I'm going to fund this. So this was a completely bootstrapped. I bootstrapped both of my businesses, didn't raise any outside funding. And so I took the capital that I had made from the first exit and I funded this. So I knew that it's all my money. I need to completely understand how the money's being used, how we're going to grow, how I can reinvest it, all of those things. I wasn't going to hire an outside agency for my biggest expense and then wonder, okay, is everything being done, the way that it should? Because the first 6 months, 12 months is so important when you're starting a business. Like, if you don't get things moving in the right direction, have the right people on board, it fails. And most new businesses do fail, right? So that was key. So getting that partner. And then when we came together, and I told him, I said, all right, man, I want to do this thing with mouth taping and I want to call it hostage tape. And he goes, dude, no way. I just started getting into mouth taping myself because I'm having this issue. I love it. And so then he created all of our branding, all of the image, all the images, everything that you see, all the creative that you see, that's all him. And then I'm the one that basically runs everything, all the business side of it. I drive all the marketing, all of that. And so the development of the product was really just a function of like, okay, let's go out and figure out like, what are some of the primary problems we wanted to solve with this? Because you might be thinking it's tape. Like, what's the difference, right?
I want to talk about that sentence that you made because it's super important. Every person going into business, what problem am I going to solve? How am I going to give clear value to the customer? What's the value proposition on a problem that I'm solving? So again, what you're saying is exactly the way it is. And being a serial entrepreneur, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, fortunately for this product, we have that. We are solving a very clear problem. And for anybody out there, the best thing that you can do when you're starting any business is first, and I tell this to my son, every other day when we talk about business and stuff, I say, son, I want you to, if you're thinking about starting a business and you want to start to flex those muscles, find a problem that you identify with or that you go through, that you see, and then you can build a business around a problem, right? And we're solving a very clear problem. So then it's really easy to be able to sell something to people that solves a very clear problem for people. And fortunately, that's what hostage tape really does.
Just a quick reminder, this is the Common Denominator podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, we'd be grateful if you can leave us a 5-star rating and review. And subscribe to our YouTube page if you haven't already done so. Thanks so much. Now, back to the show. Just so we understand macro. So where are you now? How many years have you been in the business? And where are you? Okay. And where are you now? And where do you see yourself being in 5-10 years from now, as far as a company?
So we launched this brand in March of last year, and so we're coming up on we'll be coming up on almost 2 years now, like close. And we did 6 figures in year 1, and we're doing 8 figures in year 2. So that's a pretty amazing feat, that like to take a business from 6 figures to 8 figures in 1 year. Pretty cool. But I tell a lot of people that's not like it just happened overnight. I look at that as a result of, it's like an iceberg, right? I had this 16 years of this previous business that I built, and I failed a lot, failed a ton. All of that knowledge allowed me then to go into the second business, know exactly what I needed to do, how I needed to execute it. So now we went from 6 figures to 8 figures in 12 months. And because I knew exactly what I needed to do, because I'd learned it all, right, from 16 years. And so now the goal here is that I didn't build it to sell it, but I know that the direction we are headed for a huge exit, a huge outcome, right? But I built a holding company knowing that we're going to build multiple brands, and that if somebody came to me and wanted to buy it, whether it's a big, CPG company or private equity, I don't know, then if we want to cut it loose, we can, but that's not the goal. I believe like we've got an amazing brand and an amazing company that's changing people's lives, that's going to have great cash flow for a long, long time because of the nature of the product. It's really sticky. And it's one of those things that, like you're experiencing, it might be life-changing for you, and then you're just telling everybody about it. Like, oh my God, man, I started using hostage tape. Wait, hostage tape? And then it creates this whole crazy conversation that becomes kind of viral in itself, and everybody tells everybody about it. But
so, by the way, statistically in the e-commerce space, to go from 6 to 8 figures in a 2-year period like that, I mean, that is against all odds. But that point, like you said, 16 years, and I've said that on the show before. It's like basically nothing for years, right? Like nothing. And then the nature of humans, right? We always need this validation. But we have to get comfortable that we're not going to get that, and then we're going to get failures, and it's going to be hard, and because it's not for everybody. So going in to decide to be an entrepreneur, it is all of that. It's like martial arts on the highest level, and then one day, when you're completely like, whatever, in that moment, that surrender moment or whatever, that's always what I've seen everybody I've talked to, that's when it happens. There's this like moment in time.
Yeah. And now it's at a point where we've got a team of 18. I've got 18 people on my staff. And I know how to assemble all the pieces to this puzzle so that it does feel easy. But again, it's easy. It feels easy, and it might look easy from the outside, but that's because of the 16, 17, 18 years of experience to get to here. It's like when you watch, when you watch Tom Brady on the field, he made it look so easy, and you're like, oh, I could do that. But it's because he's been doing it for 20, 30 years to get to what you're seeing to make it look that easy.
But but I just want to mention, as being in your previous life, right, a Canadian Football League quarterback, right? So that, number one is people, even if you're an athlete, you still deal with snoring. I know I train and I work out, and I just deal with it. You shouldn't be embarrassed about it, right? It's just something that's real. And right, you want to have a happy marriage.
As we get old,
right,
normal. It seems to be It seems to be way more normal than it should be. Totally.
But I do like the discipline of athletics. Gives you kind of the framework, the process and procedure. Every day, waking up early and doing what you need to do is a similar kind of framework as an entrepreneur, I find.
Well, and you know what it is, man? It's the grind. And what a lot of people that look on the outside in at entrepreneurship, building a business, don't understand is that it ain't all sunshine and rainbows every day, right? Like an athlete, you wake up every morning, you go to the gym, you work out, you practice, you go home, you get up and you repeat it day in and day out for 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. That's entrepreneurship. You get up, You do all the work. It might feel monotonous, but that's what you got to do. And then it stacks and stacks and stacks and builds, and the momentum continues to build and build and build.
Yeah. I think that's, I remember Jeff Bezos was saying he had this like kind of 40-year vision, right? I mean, and then I tell people, even start with a 10-year vision, but crystallize that vision when you're meditating, when you're seeing, this is where I'm going. So then it negates all the fears and all the other things that are in your mind, right?
Let me talk about that, because I think this might sound woo-woo to people, but I visualize every morning. Every morning. And I'm a huge believer in visualization, law of attraction, all those kind of things.
Sure.
And in many ways, if you think about it scientifically, the law of attraction is almost kind of like, you know how when, let's say you're in the market to buy a Tesla, right? Before that, you maybe didn't notice them that much, but then all of a sudden you're in the market for Teslas, you're thinking about Teslas. What do you see on the road? All you see are Teslas. That's because your brain now is doing that to you. And that's really like what the law of attraction is, right? And really visualizing is now you're just reprogramming your brain to focus on certain things. And then you start noticing opportunities better. So every morning when I do a morning routine that involves red light therapy, sauna, stretching, cold tub, all that stuff. And I sit and I go through the same visualization every morning on, because this is going to be a $1 billion brand, right? Hostage Tape will be a $1 billion brand. We're already on our way. So I sit there and I visualize what that looks like, of opening up my computer, going into my analytics, seeing all the zeros, right? And then I go through that process of what it feels like to open car doors, go into houses, and just do all, and like pick up my product while I'm in Target, like just all these things that I feel and take myself through. And I've been doing that for almost 2 years now.
Super, super, super important. I like kind of like self-talk, but just again, that crystallizing of exactly what it is. People think it's like hocus pocus. Everybody super successful entrepreneur has that, whatever it is for them, whatever works for them, that right. Visualization, that meditation, that process. It doesn't happen the way we see it on social media. It's not like, oh, here it is. Look at these young kids doing, yeah, you may have that. You may have someone win the lottery. You may have someone, get an inheritance, right? But they don't have the emotional journey, what it took, and then all the work that it took, because that's actually how it goes. So, Alex, what's something that you're grateful for?
What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for something that my mother taught me. And it's something that I teach my kids almost every day, is that you can do anything you want to do. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish. You just got to be willing to work for it.
Love that. And what's something about you that people don't know?
Most people don't know that I was on reality TV back when I was in my 20s. I was on ElimiDate long time ago. I was the guy that got to pick from like 4 different girls, and it was wild. It was crazy.
I love that. Right? Reality show. It's funny. Some people tell me, we have a lot of kids and a lot going on. We're here in Miami. It's like pitching us, oh, you guys should do a reality show. I'm like, oh my God, that's a whole experience. But it's it was probably something you look back, you're like, oh wow, that was interesting and fun.
Well, I'm so glad I did it, but it's definitely, it gives you the view of like, okay, reality TV isn't actually reality TV. It's produced TV to look like reality, because you got the producers coaching you behind the scenes to do this and to do that, and let's make it fun and exciting. How about you do this? Say that to her.
Of course.
So,
well, thank you so much. Some great advice, business advice, journey advice. Thank you so much, Alex. How can people learn more about yourself, about Hostage Tape, if they want to do that?
Yeah, if you want to learn more, just go to hostagetape.com. Go there, read the why page on why it's important, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there still skeptical on like mouth taping, mouth breathing, really. So you can go there, read about it. We got a sleep quiz there. Take that. And then we're on all the social medias under Hostage Tape.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Alex. Please subscribe to our YouTube page so you never miss an episode. And if you're currently listening to the show, we'd be grateful for a 5-star rating and review. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.